The children of our nation know little to nothing about 9/11, but the Tunnel to Towers 9/11 Institute is righting this wrong by helping teachers educate kids in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their nonfiction, first-person accounts are told through videos and the Discovering Heroes book series. The Institute offers full, scripted curriculum units with background for teachers, a speakers bureau for classrooms, a mobile exhibit that's an interactive museum with 9/11 artifacts and FDNY guides. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.
When you want your spring break to feel like... and your kids' pool day to feel like... and your hotel bed to feel like... ooh, and room service to feel like... because at Hilton, hospitality feels like...
Your cabana's ready. Would you like fresh towels?
It matters where you stay. Book now at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, welcome everybody on this Monday night. The freeze kind of not too bad today. About 34 degrees at one point, which felt like 80. When you go through what we've been through here in New York, New Jersey, basically the rest of the country. I mean, again, New Yorkers were so pious. We are such divas. Every time we get a little bit of snow, we think that the world is coming to an end. Look what's going on down in like Charleston, down in Raleigh, Nashville. Many people have been without power for 7, 10, 13 days. It's crazy, but it's that winter, and I said it back in October. Farmers Almanac said we are in for a doozy, and sure enough, we are across the USA. Anyway, Zohran Mamdani. Now look, I'm going to play a little game that liberals played back when President Trump took office for his second term, and that was 2 days in. You had liberals on social media talking about why aren't the price of eggs lowered yet? Donald Trump said he would lower prices on day one, and the media would echo this. Now, this is a classic game that we see with Democrats and their allies in the free press. I say that generously because when Donald Trump says he will lower prices on day one, he literally doesn't mean day one because that's not how supply chains and the economy works. But regardless, so let's play that game for a moment. Zohran Mamdani has been mayor for exactly 31 days. And so far, you want to do a little report card? All right, fine. Said that bus and subways would be both free and, oh, by the way, faster. Well, buses and subways, in terms of their fares, are up and service is slower. Ask anybody. 13 people, now 14 people, have frozen to death in New York City in the 21st century. Why? Because this moron, Mamdani, said that it is a last resort to round up people and force them into homeless shelters. They should have free reign in their tent cities that have, no heat. So you get this thing called hypothermia, and then you end up dead. 14 people died on the streets of New York just in the past couple of days alone, and the blood, or in this case, the freeze, the ice is on the hands of Mamdani, which is so ironic on so many levels. There have been 15 homicides in New York over the past 31 days. You know how many there have been in Washington, D.C.? You want to know? Let's see. It's a number that you get when you multiply any number by 1. 1! That's it! 1. In all of Washington, D.C. since January 1st, 1 murder. We have 15 here in New York. Oh, okay. Well, when you call the NYPD racist, when you call them anti-gay and anti-queer, well, maybe police forces are maybe a little bit demoralized, or in general, you don't have the message that says to criminals that this will not stand anymore in terms of zero tolerance. Zero tolerance. And that's why we have a murder rate right now across the United States, I guess excluding New York. Lowest in 125 years. Lowest. And that's because ICE is obviously doing their job as far as deporting, arresting murderers, rapists, child molesters, sex traffickers. They go hand in hand. Yet, and we'll get to the Grammys in a moment, a lot different perspective over there, certainly. Let's see. In New York, rapes are up 11%, and the city faces a $13 billion fiscal cliff. Now, here's where it gets very interesting, because Memdani says, okay, like many socialists do, all right, we'll just take more of the people's money to pay for the free stuff for the poor people that don't work for it. Now, I'm not saying all poor people don't deserve a safety net. Of course they do. But when you're talking about things that involve free busing, who deserves that exactly? What right is that? And by the way, how does that solve anybody's financial situation when bus fares aren't all that high? It's not making or breaking your budget. So yet he wants to provide that. Free subways, free childcare, $30 minimum wage. Every bodega, every small business will either go out of business or leave this city if that actually happens. But meanwhile, here you have Memdani saying, you know what? I have decided, he said this on Saturday, to appoint a former inmate to be the commissioner of the Department of Corrections. Oh, boy, that doesn't seem like virtue signaling or anything that would be woke, would it? He's doing this not because he thinks he has the best guy for the job. He's doing this to signal to his very, very far left base and those sipping latte in Brooklyn, the young people who got the educations who think they're morally superior by voting for this maniac. That's what this is all about, not about solving problems and merit. This is cut number 10. Go.
Stanley will make history in this role as the first ever formerly incarcerated person to serve as commissioner.
Oh, yay!
That achievement is not merely symbolic. It is a testament to the thought and leadership he will bring to every member of corrections staff and incarcerated New Yorkers underneath his purview. And as the former first deputy commissioner for the DOC and the executive vice president of the Fortune Society, that work has long been Stanley's purpose.
When we provide support.
All right. I've heard enough there. Kevin, thank you. Look, here's the problem. We have now also somebody who's going to run the NYFD who probably isn't the best qualified person for that either, as far as, the right person to lead the fire department in places like the Bronx, for example, where they have fire alarm fires. I mean, this isn't like Little House on the Prairie in Walnut Grove, where literally there's a couple of, buildings that are around and not hard to put out a fire. You need experienced people in these positions, and we have DEI on steroids right now. DEI, which I guess is supposed to stand for, let's see, diversity, equity, and inclusion. No, it stands for D, didn't E earn, and I, it. Didn't earn it. But this is Memdani, and this is how he's going to govern. And I can guarantee you, we now have some buyer's remorse happening with Memdani. Literally last night, there were people outside of Gracie Mansion who were calling Memdani a liar, who were on megaphones going off on him when it comes to the Epstein files, because his mom is now in it, including Memdani as a child, at a party with Maxwell, who was Epstein's number 2 after party. And here you have this filmmaker who was obviously close to Epstein if she's getting invites to parties. Now, I'm not saying that if you go to a party that makes you a pedophile or a horrible person, but if we're going to play, again, liberal rules here, that means that, well, if Trump went to a party and, other people that are famous went to parties, therefore they're all indictable, right? Or no. But the point is that you had people literally protesting outside of Gracie Mansion last night, calling Memdani a liar and that he has to go. And then you see the front page of the New York Post today, as far as its headline, the city that never sweeps, because we have literally mounds of snow piling up. I tried to get out of Manhattan last week. Let's put it this way. I live 21 miles from New York City. I had to go into Fox News to do what's called a hit. Basically, I go on the air and I talk about stuff. Actually, I had to do 2 back to back. And then I get back into a car. They give you a car service because, you're a contributor. You get these things. Not because you're a diva. They could put me on the back of a moped for all I care. It's more so they can track where you are. So in case you're running late, they could produce their show accordingly, because live TV, you can't be late, right? You have to be in a certain place at a certain time. You do a car service. Literally, there's a tracking device to tell the producers exactly where the people that are supposed to be on your show are and whether they're going to get there or not. And with New York, as we know, that's a very unpredictable thing. Well, I'm trying to get home from New York, and I texted my wife at one point. I said, you can't move in this place because there's a whole bunch of trucks, livery trucks, that used to be able to park on one side of the street or the other to unload their cargo to XYZ business. Now, there is no side of the street on either side, left or right. It's all one way, basically. And now we have a problem where livery trucks are unloading their trucks in the middle of the street, and therefore it's gridlock completely. So to go 1 mile just to get to the West Side Highway took me a good 35 minutes. The rest of the ride, because there's no traffic, took me 30 minutes. So 20 miles, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 1 mile. Big problem. And Mamdani obviously does not know what he's doing because he's never run anything in his life. That is what we have here. Now, Kathy Hochul, meanwhile, the governor of New York, by default, in essence, she is rejecting Mamdani's call for tax increases because, well, there's already this whole $13 billion deficit thing that if you tax people, they're going to leave for places like Tennessee, South Carolina, Texas, Florida. That's what's happening, and she knows it. You raise taxes, that does not solve the problem since Mamdani, again, hasn't run anything anymore. He's going with the socialist playbook, which is to tax people to the point where you take their money until they leave and then there's no money to take anymore. This is cut number 1. Go.
Said that he doesn't think that wealthy people and corporations would actually leave if their taxes go up. Do you disagree with that?
It's not a gamble I want to take because we're already down about $13 billion in revenues from people who did leave our state.
Whoops.
And when asked, many of them do complain about the taxes in New York, something I'm trying to do something about.
Okay. Well, New York does have the second highest tax rate in the country behind California. My state of New Jersey not far behind. Hochul knows that this is a big loser. And look, that was pragmatic what she said. People are leaving. The revenue leaves with it. You can't tax your way out of these things. You have to actually cut stuff. And Mamdani has not only an interest in cutting anything, he wants to add at least $12, $15 billion annually to a $13 billion statewide budget deficit. Because free health care, at least free child care, costs a lot of money. Free busing costs a lot of money. Grocery stores paid for and constructed by the government cost a lot of money. And this guy has zero idea exactly how to pay for it or how to incorporate it. Meanwhile, just to add to this whole burden, here's Kathy Hochul talking about how basically half of New York is on Medicaid. Half! This is cut number 2. Go.
So all these programs, whether it's the nutrition programs, half of my budget, or a large percent of my budget is Medicaid. Half of New Yorkers are on Medicaid.
And those are lower income New Yorkers. Do you believe that the wealthy are paying their fair share in New York State?
Well, these are seniors also and children. And so, we've been able to manage, but now Donald Trump takes $3 billion out in 1 year and $750 million last year. So that's what's hard to manage. The incoming from Washington, we budget, we set aside a money. We look at how much is coming and we manage ourselves. We've been doing this for years. And then I've got the Trump administration just yanking the money that had always been there and is supported by the federal tax dollars.
All right, Kev, enough. Yeah, the Trump administration is yanking the money. No, maybe we can't have all these subsidies on things like Obamacare, where, again, the government can't pay for everything. There needs to be a private solution to this to a certain extent. And the fact that Hochul is complaining about half of New York being on Medicaid and the government should pay for it, that's socialism. So while she rejects Mamdani on taxes, she's still embracing the very things that she wants, which is that the government is here to take care of you from cradle to grave, and that's not the way it's supposed to work. Finally, it could be worse. We could have Mayor Wu of Boston, which is somehow more liberal than New York, maybe for now anyway, and she is saying that everyone who comes here illegally should be welcome because I guess the government will pay for it like Kathy Hochul wants. This is cut number 3. Go.
Every person, every human being has the legal right to come to the United States and seek asylum or shelter. And
do you hear that? No, you don't actually. Again, you would think after 2024 and everything that we have seen as far as social services being completely and totally decimated in cities like Boston and New York, where we're talking about police forces being cut, sanitation being cut, educational services being cut. It doesn't matter. It's still, well, if you want to come here illegally, open arms. You want to come here legally? Be my guest all day long. Illegally, we cannot absorb 12 to 15, 20, or if Mayor Wu has her way, or Mayor Mamdani, I guess the whole world. Everybody comes here, and I guess there's some sort of magical unicorn that'll find a way to pay for all this. It's an absolute joke. Anyway, this is the Joe Concha Show. Back with so much more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
TaxAct knows filing taxes can be confusing, so we have live experts on hand who can help answer any questions you may have. Questions like, can I claim my SUV as my home office if I answer work emails in my car? If I adopted 12 dogs this year, can I list them as dependents? And, am I doing this right or am I doing this very, very wrong? Our experts have the answers to those questions and many others. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So last night was the Grammys. I know. None of us saw it. I mean, we'll see the clips today, but still, when you see viewership for the Grammys or for the Oscars, that's probably the best example. Back in 1998, that was when Titanic was nominated something like 16 times. And Titanic, at that point, was the biggest grossing movie of all time. You're talking more than $1 billion in 1990s money. James Cameron, of course, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet. I got problems with Titanic, particularly the end. You know, for starters, you're the old lady. You know, you're about to die. And you have the heart of the ocean jewel, which is probably worth $50 billion, and you throw it to the bottom of the ocean. Maybe give it to your family, the grandkids that took care of you. I don't know. 57 million people watched the Oscars in 1998. That number's down to something like 10 million. The Grammys, friends and relatives watched last night. No one watched this thing. And I have some clips for you, my friends, believe me, that, let's put it this way. I'll give you a little tease here. It was as insufferable as the Biden years times 20, including Billie Eilish, who said the following in cut number 11.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
Woo! Yeah. All right. No one is illegal on stolen land. Okay. Well, Billie Eilish has a $14 million estate in California, and it's surrounded by walls and fences and heavy security. So either she lets in all these illegals that she wants in the country by, I don't know, she's probably have a good 20, 25 guest beds in a house like that. Either let them in and put your money where your mouth is, or I don't want to hear from you. Anyway, more from Billie Eilish, more from Trevor Noah, and a lot on Don Lemon. That's coming up next on the Joe Concha Show. Please do stick around.
Class dismissed.
This class again?
Don't sit in courses you've already taken. University of Phoenix accepts eligible transfer credits and has a scholarship for transfer students. Finish your degree faster.
ABC's David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America. Most trusted, most watched. David Muir on ABC.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
Woo! Let's analyze the crowd reaction to that, shall we? Because not just Billie Eilish probably has, heavy private security. I think she had a stalker problem as well, so she definitely has private security. But basically everybody that was in that audience last night, in that area, Hollywood, I'm not saying everybody in attendance has heavy security, but talk about people living in a bubble, an absolute bubble, who are not exposed to the type of things that Blake and Raleigh was, for example. A nursing student at the university, or was jogging at the University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia, and was brutally beaten and murdered by a Venezuelan illegal. I don't hear anybody in Hollywood talking about that. Or Jocelyn Nungray, or I could give up the hundreds of examples just in the last year alone of those who were killed by illegals. And again, we shed lots of tears for criminals, apparently, but we're not shedding tears for actual victims in this case. And Billie Eilish, again, to say that no one is illegal on stolen land. I think you might want to study history for a little bit there, Billy, because, well, basically, since the beginning of time, people have stolen land from one another, whether it's through wars, whether that's through a bunch of different things. And again, your $14 million estate, you could be the first to give that back to whoever you deem is worthy of having your stolen land. Because until I see some sort of action behind these words, it is all that sound and fury signifying nothing. Meanwhile, Bad Bunny will perform at the Super Bowl in Santa Clara, California on Sunday. 125 million people tuning in if we're looking at audience numbers from the last couple of years. So easily the most watched event by a country mile and then some in the United States and around the world outside of the World Cup. As far as that performance is concerned, your Bad Bunny, this could do a lot of big things for you in terms of your career. But he's also going to wear a dress. All right. A grown man from Puerto Rico is going to wear a dress during the Super Bowl, we are told, which, again, I have a 10-year-old, so if I got to sit there with him during the halftime show, I have to explain to him that while football is, and I played it, growing up, state champs, Wayne Valley, New Jersey, thank you. Dad played it. Obviously, I have a lot of respect for the game, for any sport for that matter. And just to say, okay, you go out there, you dedicate yourself, you really commit yourself to a craft and to a purpose and a mission. And, every inch counts. And if you go to that weight room, even during the winter, during the off season, and you work out and you study film and you dedicate yourself to something like it's almost a religion, you will find greatness, or at least even if you don't find greatness, you gave 100%. And you'll make memories that you'll have for a lifetime. You watch that during the Super Bowl, you try to instill those sort of lessons into your kid, and then a guy with a dress comes out during halftime and is yelling about how horrible ICE is in this country. This is Bad Bunny. This is Cut 13, and I'm sorry I have to play this. Cut 13, go.
I'm going to say ICE out,
Yes.
We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans.
So one little problem with that argument, we are Americans. So Bad Bunny's argument, I guess, is that Trump is grounding up American citizens and expelling them from the country. No. Again, these are illegals who are in the country illegally and have committed crimes here and therefore have worn out their welcome and then some. And then you see polls today that still show a majority of Americans solidly, absolutely support deportation, not just of criminal illegals in the country, but all illegals. Whoops. So you think like all this stuff in Minnesota and ICE and everything that's gone on there, that somehow is going to change public sentiment and the perspective on this overall. It has not. It has invigorated the far left, those who watch MSN Now or MSNBC or whatever it's called, and think that that's actually a news channel, or CNN for that matter, or think that the New York Times is still the paper of record, or the Washington Post, or the Atlantic is actually an intellectual magazine. No. So it's invigorated that side, of course, but it doesn't mean that that is how the country is now going as far as their perception of what ICE is doing. And the NFL, you're Roger Goodell, you make all this money, and you outsource who's doing the Super Bowl halftime show to friggin' Jay-Z? Of course he's going to choose people like this. You know the last time they had a rock band there? Like an actual like rock and roll band? 2010. 2010? Would you say that wasn't that long ago? It's 16 years ago. That's 4 presidential terms. All right? And look, we've had Katy Perry since then. You want to get like a pop person on there? That's fine. I didn't mind when Snoop Dogg was there a couple of years ago. I do mind when Bad Bunny, if he did this at the Grammys, he's going to go up there and do some sort of speech again or some sort of message saying that illegal immigration is great and we should let everybody in, and they conflate legal immigration with illegal immigration like he just did in that clip. You know what's going to happen. It's going to piss off half the country, but yet all these news organizations, I say that again with scare quotes, are going to cheer a guy like that on. No question about it. Oh, meanwhile, also at the Grammys last night, Trevor Noah. I can't think of anybody with less talent that seems to get these gigs quite like Trevor Noah. Jimmy Kimmel a close second. Colbert obviously up there. But Trevor Noah sucked on The Daily Show. Jon Stewart, at least you could disagree with him as far as like, yes, he's profoundly liberal, but there were some good lines in there, and once in a while he would go after those who are members of his own party. Trevor Noah, I guess because he has an accent, makes him sound intelligent. I don't quite know where to go with this, but here is Trevor Noah, sure enough, making an Epstein joke about Trump, and it's just so, what's the word I'm looking for here? Insipid. This is cut number 17. Go.
That is a Grammy that every artist wants, almost as much as Trump wants Greenland, which makes sense. I mean, because Epstein's island is gone, he needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton. So, I told you it's my last year. What are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do about it? Well, Trump announced on Truth Social that now Trevor Noah will be sued into oblivion for making that sort of statement. And before you say, well, that lawsuit's not going to go anywhere. Well, Trump sued CBS and settled for $15 million. Trump sued ABC and sued for $15 million. Trump has won every time he's taken a media organization or person to court, is either winning or settling. So when you say that he had been to Epstein Island, can't get away with that on national television, and accountability will come. Look, I don't agree with obviously policing jokes, but at some point, these aren't jokes anymore. It's activism in broad daylight. No question about it. Speaking of activists, here's Joy Reid, formerly of the aforementioned MSNBC Now. In cut 16, she's going to talk about how Donald Trump is a big problem when it comes to deportation of those who are in the country illegally. And Piers Morgan, my colleague over at Fox, holds her feet to the fire as far as like, hey, Joy, when Barack Obama was president, how many people were deported from this country? And for whatever reason, this journalist didn't know the answer. In fact, she didn't even come close. This is cut number 16. Go.
Do you know how many people Barack Obama deported in 8 years?
I don't know and don't care.
Well, hang on. You don't know and you don't care. You've just given me...
Because it's not the issue.
You're
trying to make the issue the southern border.
Joy. You've just given me a lengthy monologue attacking Donald Trump's aggressive deportation policy. And I've simply said to you there was a Democrat, a black Democrat president of the United States for 8 years. How many people did he deport in 8 years?
I do not know. You'll tell me. I'm sure.
Have a guess.
But it's probably more than 1 million people. I'm quite certain.
Have a
because
guess.
I think each...
Quite certain.
2 million.
It was 3 million.
She was short by 2 million people. How are you on the air every night and not know that basic stat? I don't want 3.1 million and 89,000, just around 3 million. And she didn't know because she doesn't want to know, because the Trump narrative is the only one that matters. The bottom line is that Barack Obama deported far more people than Trump has to this point, more than Bush, more than Clinton. Doesn't matter. And Democrats didn't want to talk about that because obviously that is a narrative that they don't want to really, a road they don't want to go down. And remember, Obama was called by the far left at the time the deporter in chief, derisively. Well, if you're Joy Reid, you might want to know your numbers next time before you make an absolute jackass of yourself on Piers Morgan's show. Anyway, Don Lemon has had a career revival, I guess. I mean, this arrest of him makes him somewhat relevant again as far as at least the far left. Again, everybody thinks that Don Lemon is an absolute punchline, and he is. Because you could go back and look at clips on CNN where he literally floated the idea that MH370, that was the Malaysian commercial aircraft that unfortunately disappeared for a long time before anybody could find it, which is really odd. Like in this world of radar and just the ability to track aircraft, let alone your wallet, let alone your car, this thing was missing for weeks, and CNN made it its primary focus. And at one point, Lemon goes on the air and starts to speculate if a black hole may have swallowed it, from space, which would be impossible because a black hole, if you took astronomy for basically 5 minutes, that a black hole anywhere near Earth would, absorb the entire planet, not just, a single plane over the Indian Ocean. So this is perhaps the dumbest person to ever have a national platform on a news station, CNN, if you want to call it that. But here's Don Lemon. He has on Morgan Freeman. And this is great because Morgan Freeman, while he's also liberal, but everybody is in Hollywood, gives Lemon basically a lecture on how, well, if you keep harping on race and you keep saying that everything's racist, well, then you're going to create a problem that may not exist to the point that you think it does. And watch what Don Lemon does at the end of this, because he realizes that this is not a road he wants to go down with somebody who seems to have some intelligence in Morgan Freeman. This is cut number 14. Go.
I said, and it's probably get me in trouble, but I said to some of my colleagues recently, so I know that it's an issue, but it seems like every single day on television I'm talking about race, and it's because of the news cycle. It's in the news, but sometimes I get so tired of talking about it. I want to just go, this is over. Can we move on?
And if you talk about it, it exists.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like it exists and we refuse to talk about it, but making it a bigger issue than it needs to be is the problem we have.
So I understand you recently had a birthday.
I didn't cut that. That is exactly the way that played out. If you talk about it too much, maybe you make it a bigger issue than it really is. So I understand you had a birthday. Yep, that's the Don Lemon brand there. It's the greatest thing ever. No question about it. Someone that Don Lemon probably has on like a text message that, in other words, like a chain that's gone on for years, is Damon Green. Now, who is Damon Green? Damon Green plays for the Golden State Warriors. Talk about a woke team. You have Steve Kerr as its coach, who spoke at the DNC in 2024. You have Steph Curry, who, if I just looked at him without the political lens, is the greatest shooter of all time if I take Larry Bird out of that conversation. And I'm not sure that even is the case. Steph Curry could hit half-court shots like they're layups. It really is incredible. 5 feet behind a three-point line, 35-foot shots, no problem. Like this guy with no effort whatsoever. Incredible. I respect his ability to shoot a basketball. Now, all of that said, you got to hate the team because the team constantly is political. They would not go to the White House when they won championships during Trump's first term. And now here's Draymond Green, who by far is the dirtiest player we have seen in sports, maybe ever. Right? I'm including Bill Maher in this conversation. Jack Tatum from the Raiders, I'll include in this situation. Think dirty, think WWE, and this guy is probably worse than that. And now, after he got called for his 1 billionth technical, he finally decides to play the race car from the bottom of the deck.
I will tell you, though, I find it very ironic that I got a technical foul for telling a Caucasian referee not to put his hand in my face.
A Caucasian referee?
Black man in America, don't put your hand in my face. And I said, hey, don't put your hand in my face, and I got a tech. So I thought that was the most interesting thing of the night.
Did he try to explain himself?
He said, Draymond, this is your chance to stop talking to me, bro. Don't put your hand in my face. Oh, tech. Oh, okay. So,
yeah,
everybody want to talk.
We get it. Okay, Kev. Draymond Green has been either ejected or received more technical fouls than anybody in the NBA over the last 10 years than any other NBA player. It's not even close in their lifetimes, just over the last 10 years. And this guy now suddenly saying, well, this white referee put his hand in my face. Well, Draymond Green kind of brought it upon himself. But getting back to Don Lemon, I have seen over the weekend, over and over again, people who purport to be journalists are calling Don friggin' Lemon a serious, independent journalist who was only pursuing a story when he assisted church protesters into going into a church, getting up in the faces of children there, where they said that, hey, your parents are Nazis, or would scream at these poor parishioners and say that this is not a house of worship, this is the house of the devil. Again, innocent people just doing the one thing they do every week where they bring their family together, pray to God, and be at peace. And instead, these maniacs, Antifa North, goes in there with Don Lemon leading the way. All right, again, he knew what was going to happen. He interviewed the head of the protest, the agitator, kissed the girl on the cheek when he was done, and gave out coffee and donuts to these people before they got in, just make sure they were well fed and they were warm. Oh, but he was just performing journalism, right? Well, the next time anybody tries to defend Don Lemon and say, actually, you know what? Really, he's just a serious guy asking serious questions. Here he is, and the way he talked about Trump supporters. Trump supporters, forget Trump. Trump supporters, and cut number 5, go, and you tell me if this is a journalist. Cut number 5, go.
You try to get rid of the migrants and some of the folks who come here, quite honestly, illegally, then you can't, then you folks in the farming industry, in the service industries, and in any other industries, they won't be able to do their jobs. Some farmers say, without these workers, they have about 2 days that they can run their farm.
It's not true.
And then after that, it's over.
Journalist. There he is.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Now you're finding out, you dumb idiots. Now you're just figuring this out.
Oh,
you're
boy.
so stupid and you deserve it.
Oh, so Trump supporters are so effing stupid and they deserve it. By the way, the whole stat around how, hey, only illegals will work on farms and in wineries and all those places, it is simply not true. It's something like the illegal population makes up in a little more than 1% of the workforce in places like that. So who's stupid now? Anyway, this is Joe Concha. We'll be back with so much more, trust me, in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
With Venmo Stash, a taco in one hand and ordering a ride in the other means you're stacking cash back. Nice. Get up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash on your favorite brands when you pay with your Venmo debit card. From takeout to rideshares, entertainment, and more, pick a bundle with your go-tos and start earning cash back at those brands. Earn more cash when you do more with Stash. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply. Max $100 cash back per month. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
You know, I always say that Bill Maher is now the voice of reason, of common sense on the Democratic side of the aisle. Again, I don't agree with probably 20% of what Bill Maher says politically. However, I think the guy is authentic, and I think that he really is unafraid to say things that his audience may not be too appreciative of, including some in his audience who support Luigi Mangione, the coward who shot a United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, in the back in Midtown Manhattan about a year ago because he was upset about the way the insurance industry in healthcare was being run. And here is Maher going off on Luigi supporters in his audience who literally, when he brings up his name, it got a woo-woo out of a couple of them, which, again, Brian Thompson, father of two to two young boys and a wife who's now a widow, and people cheer this the way they cheered Charlie Kirk getting executed. Maher wasn't going to have any of it. This is cut number 8. Go.
And here's some interesting news. Luigi Mangione fans? Do we have any Luigi Mangione fans here? Right, because street executions are always a K when it's a cause you like. Yeah. But, okay, so here's the judge said he will not face the death penalty now, Luigi Mangione, but he will reassess in 15 years when he's less hot.
Oh, see, that's the thing, because you had people like Tim Miller of the Bulwark saying, wow, boy, his abs are really hot, and I know he killed somebody, but he is hot. And now you literally have women who now want to marry Luigi Mangione if he somehow goes free. That is the state of our society, at least on the left at this point, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow night for the Joe Concha Show. I hope you had fun tonight. Try to stay warm, people. It's February. We're almost through this. Give it about another 2 months. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
The children of our nation know little to nothing about 9/11, but the Tunnel to Towers 9/11 Institute is righting this wrong by helping teachers educate kids in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their nonfiction first-person accounts are told through videos and the Discovering Heroes book series. The Institute offers full scripted curriculum units with background for teachers, a speakers bureau for classrooms, a mobile exhibit that's an interactive museum with 9/11 artifacts and FDNY guides. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.